First up on our list today is Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is considered to be one of the most handsome Hollywood stars to grace the silver screen. He is also known for being an extremely talented actor who led a bit of a rough and tumble life. But what you may not know is that his ladies' man attitude resulted in various affairs and marriages, and, well, 8 kids, with the actor adopting 3 additional kids on top of that. And sadly, some of these children would have extremely unhappy lives. In 1990, one of Marlon Brando's sons, Christian, shot his sister Sheehan's boyfriend. Apparently, he had suspected that Sheehan's boyfriend was harming her physically, and so Christian ended up taking his life when the altercation escalated. He was charged with manslaughter and served 6 years in prison. Sadly, that wasn't the only horror that the Brando children would go through, as only 5 years later, Sheehan tragically ended up taking her own life after a diagnosis with schizophrenia and a steady mental decline. Next on the list is Liv Tyler. We all know her as the stunning half-elf woman in Lord of the Rings. She's also known as the daughter of Steven Tyler, the eccentric frontman of Aerosmith. However, that wasn't always the case. Liv Tyler was originally born as Liv Rundgren, and she believed that the famous musician and music producer Todd Rundgren was her father. However, a chance encounter as an 8-year-old with Steven Tyler started to unravel Liv's true parentage. During the meeting, Steven pointed out the eerie similarities between his own daughter and Liv, which led to her mother finally confessing the secret. Liv wasn't related to Todd at all, and in fact, her mother had kept the secret to protect her daughter because Steven was going through some serious substance issues at the time of their brief relationship. Liv eventually changed her last name to Tyler, but kept Rundgren as her middle name in homage to the man who raised her as his own at some point. Damn, I wish I had 2 rock star dads. Next up is MMA legend Ronda Rousey. She's got a spectacular record, and it's impossible to penetrate her amazing fighting legacy as she has cemented herself as one of the greats. Her personal life though, well, a little touchier. In fact, Ronda has a history of aggression in her past relationships, having violently harmed an ex-boyfriend. She is also a conspiracy theorist who has some extremely harmful opinions. She shared on her Twitter that she believes that the horrifying Sandy Hook incident was actually a manufactured incident and that the people and children involved were actually actors. I can't think of anything more harmful and disgusting than promoting that the real-life harm of was done to take away guns from Americans. Ronda shared the video and described it as, quote, extremely interesting and a must-watch documentary. Eventually, after obvious backlash, Ronda deleted the video and her manager attempted to scrub any trace of it from the internet, which obviously didn't happen because it is in fact the internet. Next up is Frank Sinatra. The smooth-singing romantic who charmed his audiences into the Hall of Greats has a seriously dark secret personal life. In fact, every move Frank Sinatra made was meticulously tracked by the FBI for 40 years in pages and pages of files. Why, you may ask? Well, outside of being held in suspicion for dodging the draft because of a supposed ear infection, he is also thought to have strong mafia ties. He's been seen in cahoots with a revolving cast of characters connected to the criminal underworld, including Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana, with whom he was close friends. Apparently, the FBI was so closely tracking Sinatra because he had introduced Sam to John F. Kennedy's campaign for presidency in an attempt to deliver Union votes. Dodging the draft and electing John F. Kennedy, Sinatra is a man after my own heart. Next up is the actor who portrayed Spider-Man in the original Spider-Man movies, you know, the ones with the PlayStation font. Well, Tobey Maguire has had an insane childhood that was largely hidden from the public when he became an A-lister. He came from a very financially strained family. His parents adopted several of his cousins after his aunt passed away suddenly, and the weight of now caring for all these kids left them destitute and broke. In a desperate attempt to provide for all these children, Tobey's dad attempted to rob a bank. His attempt was unsuccessful, and his father had to spend some time in prison for his crime. Thankfully though, he was released after a few years because it was his first time offending, and the judge sympathized with his cause. Luckily for them, they made it out of the ordeal, and now Tobey is an internationally recognized celebrity. Next on the list is Kevin Spacey, and not for what you might think, because really nothing can keep what he did a secret, and his attempts at hiding it are abysmal at best. But what you may not know is that there are more than a few skeletons in his closet, and he's got one secret that I actually didn't know. Kevin's left-leaning political views are very well known, so it may come as a surprise that his father was vehemently racist and believed that white people were a superior race. Kevin refuses to talk about his father, but his siblings have opened up a handful of times about their traumatic childhood, often describing their father as an evil monster. Apparently, their father would also continually his kids while they were growing up, and it got so bad that Kevin's brother Randy almost took the life of his father while the young boy was hiding in a closet, but he never opened the door. Although Kevin is a reprehensible human being, no boy deserves to grow up in such a horrifying environment. Next up is a K-pop idol whose secret is definitely out of the bag at this point. We all know just how strict and borderline harmful the K-pop industry is towards its stars, often restricting diets to near starvation in an attempt to get their already lean singers to lose weight, alongside 12 to 20 hours a day of dance practice. But one K-pop idol from the band Bang Bang has some dark underground secrets that only recently came to light. Seungri was sentenced last year to 3 years in prison for the crime of running an underground nightclub that bet heavily on foreign casinos where gambling is illegal. He was also charged with providing women to business executives for, services. Apparently, he's been doing this for years, and we only recently found out during a Korean military bust. Now it seems like sadly his K-pop days are over as he spends the next 3 years behind bars. Next up is Hollywood actor Casey Affleck. I'm surprised we haven't done this one yet, honestly. Known for movies like Manchester by the Sea and Gone Baby Gone, Affleck is a critic's best friend. But he's not everyone's best friend. In fact, Casey has been accused by multiple women of committing horrifying acts against them. Some say that he snuck into their bedrooms, others that when they refused his advances, he sent them violent and aggressive texts. Other women have said that he ordered a crew member to expose himself to this one woman. All of these allegations were attempted to be taken to court to be filed as multi-million-dollar lawsuits, but they were both settled for unknown amounts. Thanks to these settlements, we may never know if these accusations are true or not, but it seems really odd that not many people are talking about it these days. In fact, when asked about it, Casey brushes it off as hearsay, and his dark past seems to be fading into secrecy once again. Second to first on our list is Oprah Winfrey. The talk show host who revolutionized the game, Oprah's name is synonymous with the monolithic empire she's built surrounding her image. She's known for her lovable, relatable, and welcoming personality. But her humble beginnings make her rise to fame all the more deserved. In fact, Oprah was born in Mississippi to a single teenager mom, and she grew up in extreme poverty. During her childhood, the cost of raising a baby became too much for the young mother, so she sent Oprah to go live with her father, or at least one of the men who she thinks might have been her father. During her time with her dad, Oprah's mom gave birth to 2 more babies, one of which was given up for adoption. The real kicker here is that Oprah only found out about her sister Patricia in 2010. While a gut reaction to this news may be to cast harsh judgment on Oprah's mother, it is important to remember that it is impossible to know what it is like unless you have been in her position. For those who have been, we think you understand the brevity of her decision. Last up is Nicolas Cage. Now, I guess it's not exactly a dark secret here, and I am maybe cheating a little bit, but I only just found this out when I was writing the script, and wow, wild. Anyways, Nicolas Cage is known for his fun and sometimes extremely cheesy acting in movies like Face Off and Ghost Rider. But what you may not know is that Nicolas Cage isn't even his real name. In fact, Cage's birth name is Nicholas Kim Coppola, and his uncle is the famed director Francis Ford Coppola. The name change resulted from his wish not to cash in on the fame associated with the Coppola name in Hollywood, though the actor did end up appearing in several of Francis's films. It is quite believable when thinking about it for a few seconds, as both talents are just as eccentric as the other. The principal difference is that Francis Ford Coppola's odd ideals gave the world masterpieces like The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, while Cage gifts audiences with wild overacting and melodrama. Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we've got Jon Hamm. Jon Hamm is most notably famous for his role in the hit television series Mad Men as a cutthroat advertising executive. What he may not want you to know about him, however, were his less than savory college days that landed him in some serious trouble. In 1990, John was arrested for his alleged role in a fraternity hazing that turned horribly violent. His fraternity house was even dissolved after Ham and his friends harmed a pledge so violently that he was in the hospital, even going as far as to light him on fire. John was charged with a misdemeanor offense, and when he was asked about it in 2018, his response wasn't the best. Quote, "I was essentially acquitted. I wasn't convicted of anything. I was caught up in a big situation, a stupid kid in a stupid situation, and it was a bummer. I moved on from it." Okay, now we're moving on, I guess. And at number 9 is Richard Pryor, the iconic comedian who is often cited as direct inspiration for other comedy legends like Eddie Murphy and Dave Chappelle. Pryor changed the game. But what you may not know is that there was an extremely dark past behind the All Smiles comic. Richard grew up in an extremely unstable childhood, raised by a substance-using mother in a brothel in Illinois. Richard saw things that no child should ever have to see, and to cope with such a horrifying childhood, he also turned to substance use to self-medicate. Richard was married 7 times to 5 different women who had trouble with the comic's insatiable personal life. He even almost passed away at his own hand when he doused himself in rum and lit himself on fire while using substances. Pryor's friend even stated in an interview, quote, "He has about 13 personalities, and while you could deal with 9 of them, the other 4 are a nightmare." At number 8 is Billy Tipton. Billy Tipton, if you haven't heard of him, was a revered jazz musician who rose to fame in the 1940s and 1950s. He lived his life in relative normalcy outside of his celebrity status. Although he was never married, he did have 5 serious girlfriends, all of whom referred to themselves as Miss Tipton. Eventually, he settled down with a woman named Kelly, and they adopted 3 sons together. It wasn't until his death from a stomach ulcer in 1989 that, as he was being rushed to the hospital, his giant secret was uncovered. Billy Tipton was born a woman and had concealed his sex throughout his entire life, even from his relationships. The revelation came as, quote, "a shock to nearly everyone, including the women who had considered themselves his wives, as well as his sons and the musicians who traveled with him." To explain away any intimacy that would have happened between his partners, Billy reportedly said that he was in a serious car accident that mutilated his body, leaving him unable to perform. At the time this was revealed, it sent shockwaves through the music scene where trans performers were basically completely unheard of. And at number 7 is Prince. The iconic pop singer is considered one of the greatest musicians to have ever lived, but he also had a secret that was only uncovered upon his tragic and sudden death in 2016. After he passed, many stories started to come to light as both bank statements became public and from various sources. These bank statements revealed that Prince had been secretly donating insane sums of money to various charities throughout his life, each with the condition that the donation be private and that the donor be kept a secret. A few organizations that he did support in the days before his death were the Harlem Children's Zone and Uptown Dance Academy, New York. He even donated $12,000 to the Louisville Free Public Library in order to keep it from closing, all under the condition that they keep his name unlisted from donor records. He reportedly gave thousands away at a time, particularly to charities related to children, as his own child tragically passed away after only 6 days of life. He also focused on environmental issues, and uniquely, unlike a lot of celebrities who choose to invest so they get a financial return, Prince just donated to foundations that support environmental causes and a transition to solar power. Number 6, Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page is the virtuoso guitarist and founder of Led Zeppelin. Jimmy is largely known as one of the greatest guitarists in the history of rock music. I mean, he set the standard for the many who have imitated his electric style. Yet, what he may not want you to know about him is his predatory relationship with a young girl who was only 14 at the time. While he toured with Led Zeppelin, Jimmy dated Lori Maddox, although they kept their relationship extremely private and basically hidden because it was, you know, illegal and creepy. Even in the loose 70s, this relationship could have put Page in jail. They dated for a little while, and who knows what they did behind the scenes, but Jimmy eventually dumped her for BB Bell, who was of age at the time, thank God. Either way, not a fan of this one. And at number 5 is Matthew Broderick. Matthew Broderick is known largely for his titular role as Ferris Bueller in the John Hughes coming-of-age film Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was also in The Producers and a bunch of other A-list movies. What you may not know about him, however, is that he was directly involved and in fact caused the death of numerous people. He and Jennifer Grey, the star of Dirty Dancing, were on a romantic vacation in Ireland when Matthew head-on hit the car of a 28-year-old woman and her mother. Both women were pronounced dead at the hospital. The road was straight and easy to navigate. The issue was that they were in Ireland, and he, out of habit, drove on the wrong side of the road, which led to the crash. Following the accident, Broderick was convicted of careless driving but was only fined $175 $75, which to this day the family of the victims called a quote travesty of justice. At number 4 is Jackie Chan. While Jackie Chan appeared as a comedic kung fu fighting man on the screen, his personal life is absolutely insane and surprisingly not well known. In fact, Jackie himself didn't know until well into his career just how many secrets were being kept in his family. He learned in 2003 that he had 2 secret brothers living in China and that his father was a nationalist spy on secret missions to bust substance crime in mainland China. In fact, that's where he met Jackie's mother. In what seems like a moment straight out of a noir crime boss movie, Jackie's father met his mother, Lily Chan, because he was sent to bust her as an infamous dealer and legendary gambler in Shanghai. So, his mother was one of the lords of the Chinese underbelly, and his father was sent to arrest her. The two fled to Australia together, where they lived until their death. Jackie's father also revealed that the actor's real family name isn't Chan at all, but rather Fang. How's that for a family reunion? In at number 3 is Rose McGowan. Rose was one of the founding spokespersons in the Me Too movement, joining dozens of women who brought Harvey Weinstein to justice. She is best known for her 90s movies like Jawbreaker, Scream, and Encino Man. But what you may not know about her is her rather horrifying upbringing. She was born in Florence, Italy, where her parents lived in a commune called the Children of God. Basically, she was born into a cult that had mass allegations of horrifying crimes against humanity. I can't really say what they are because of YouTube restrictions, but if you're curious, I suggest you look into it with a serious content warning in mind. The cult in question lured people in with promises of all kinds of physical intimacy and activities, with extremely young women set to perform such acts on the men in the cult. Luckily for Rose, she was largely protected from the more heinous side of the cult, and she and her family fled when she was 14 years old, where quote, "We hid in an old stone house and had to boil pots of water to take baths. The cult sent people to find us. I remember a man trying to break in with a hammer." Number 2 on the list, Rihanna. While the celebrity singer is in the news lately for her exciting pregnancy with A$AP Rocky, what you may not know about her is her rather insane early life, and the secrets that they kept even from her until they were finally brought to light. Old family photos were unearthed that reveal a secret side of the family that Rihanna herself rarely ever talks about: her father's other kids. Rihanna has 3 older siblings through her father by 3 different women, as he admitted to being quite the womanizer in his heyday. Her and her father have an extremely complicated relationship, as he has dealt with substance use issues for most of his life. And now to find out that she had 3 other siblings she knew nothing about, it's a wonder the two have stuck together through so much. And in at number 1 is Mark Wahlberg. The actor and singer needs no introduction, but he may need a little disclaimer beside his name for the rather horrifying incident he caused in the 80s. When he was 16 years old, Mark had an extremely harsh life, and he ended up brutally harming an elderly Vietnamese man in a racially motivated attack. He shouted slurs at him while physically harming him so badly that Mark was charged with attempted murder. While he was sentenced to 2 years in prison, for some reason he only served 45 days. In a beautiful show of faith, his victim, whose name is Johnny Trin, stated that he forgives Mark. Quote, "Everyone deserves another chance. He was young and reckless, but I forgive him now. He paid for his crime when he went to prison." Mark got a pardon from the court, basically exonerating him from his crime, an action that he later stated he regrets. Quote, "I didn't need that. I spent 28 years righting the wrong. I was relieved to find out that the injuries to his eye had occurred in the early 70s and not from the incident that happened that night, but I was able to meet with him and his wife and his daughter and apologize for these horrific acts. Some good can come out of it."
Starting off this countdown in no particular order, we have Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's dad, Charles Harrelson, was an American hitman and organized crime figure. Yes, you heard me correctly. Beloved actor Woody Harrelson had a father who was a cold-blooded killer. He was just 7 at the time when his father first went to prison. It's said that he was responsible for the deaths of at least 20 people. In 1979, that is when Charles committed his biggest kill of all time. He took out a federal judge by the name of Judge John H. Wood Jr. He was the first federal judge to be killed in the 20th century. He was paid $250,000 to kill off this judge. It was because a drug dealer was about to be sentenced by this judge, who was known as Maximum John, because he always gave out really harsh punishments to drug dealers. So he got Charles to knock him off for him. But this landed him behind bars and in solitary confinement. He was there until he was 69 when he died from a heart attack. Obviously, Woody does not want to be defined by his father's actions. In our 9th spot, we have Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin is one of the few actors who actually grew up in a cult. He was born into the commune of Children of God, but when he was 4 years old, his parents managed to escape the cult and move. That's actually why they changed their last name to Phoenix, as it symbolizes rebirth, since they were able to leave this cult and start a new life. A Unfortunately, he also lost his brother at a young age. In 1993, his brother River Phoenix died from an overdose. Joaquin witnessed this happen, and he was the one that called 911. In our 8th spot today, we have Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis is best known for his role of Mr. Mosby on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and I freaking love that show. Like, it was honestly my childhood. Well, before his Disney Channel days, he actually killed someone. In December of 1991, Lewis fatally hit a 21-year-old woman. She passed away from her injuries from the hit. It was found that Lewis was driving while intoxicated. His blood alcohol levels were 3 times the legal limit of intoxication. As a result, he was convicted of a DUI as well as manslaughter. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, 2 years probation, and 350 hours of community service. But he managed to only serve 1 year in prison. I guess Disney was able to overlook his past when he auditioned for Mosby on the show. In our 7th spot today, we have Tim Allen. Now, if you look at Tim Allen, you think, aw, he's such a family man. I love Home Improvement and Toy Story. He's a great actor. Wow. Tim Allen actually had quite a dark past before he got into acting. In 1978, Allen was arrested for attempting to traffic more than 650 grams of coke. He was arrested in Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport. Now, he actually would have served a lifetime in prison, but he avoided this by giving police information about other dealers. As a result, his sentence was reduced to 3 to 7 years. He ended up serving 2 years and 4 months in prison and then was granted parole in 1981. I guess that's why they say don't judge a book by its cover, because he looks like a wholesome dad, not a drug trafficker. In our 6th spot, we have Jack Nicholson. In 1974, Time magazine discovered that Jack's sister, June, was actually his mother, not his sister. How wild is that? So June was only 17 when she became pregnant with Jack, and she wasn't married, so her parents agreed to raise the child as their own, with Jane and Lorraine acting like his older sisters. So his parents were actually his grandparents, and his sister Lorraine was his aunt. In regards to his dad, we don't know for sure who is his dad, but some say it was likely June's manager. Other sources claim June really just doesn't know who the father was. By the time Jack found this all out, his mom, June, and his grandma had already passed away. Imagine how that would have changed his life. Like, he was raised on a lie. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Sean Penn. A number of women have come forward saying that Sean Penn has been aggressive towards them. In fact, he has mistreated a number of his partners, including Madonna. They were married from 1985 to 1989. While in December of 1988, Penn allegedly tied Madonna to a chair and held her hostage for 9 hours and apparently hit her multiple times. When he untied her to let her use the bathroom, she fled to the police station. One officer said, and I quote, "Madonna staggered into the station. She was distraught, crying, with makeup smeared all over her face. I hardly recognized her. She had obviously been struck." Sean was charged with inflicting corporal injury and traumatic conditions on Madonna, as well as battery. But Madonna withdrew her complaint a week later and has rarely commented on it since, which is quite odd. Why would she say that he harmed her and then retract the statement? So who knows what really happened? Moving on to number 4, we have Leighton Meester. Now, I personally did not know this, but Blair Waldorf, aka Leighton Meester, wasn't always the queen bee of Manhattan. In fact, she was born in prison. Basically, her mom was serving a sentence after smuggling a lot of marijuana out of Jamaica with the help of Leighton's dad and Aunt Judy. All of them ended up behind bars. In fact, her aunt managed to escape prison and became America's first woman on the US Marshals 15 Most Wanted list. How insane is that? In the end, Leighton's grandmother raised her while her mom served 16 months in prison. Thank gosh she didn't follow in her family's footsteps. In our 3rd spot, we have Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken was involved in a death that is just shrouded in mystery. On November 29th, 1981, 43-year-old actress Natalie Wood was found dead, floating face down in the Pacific Ocean. She was on a yacht with her husband Robert Wagner and Christopher Walken when this happened. The thing is, no one really knows what happened to her. Some say she slipped off the deck and fell into the water, while others are convinced that her husband or Christopher Walken had something to do with it, or that they know what happened. One theory is that Natalie and Christopher were having an affair, Wagner found out about it, got mad, and pushed her off the yacht. Now, Wagner seems to be the prime suspect, but many people think that Walken knows exactly what happened. I mean, he barely even talks about the case, and on the rare occasion that he did, he would call it an accident, and also he was absent from the documentary about about her. All I'm gonna say is someone knows something. I'm getting the vibe that Walken knows what happened and maybe he just feels guilty about it. In our second spot, we have Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron actually had a very traumatic upbringing. Her dad struggled with alcohol addiction and would constantly threaten Charlize and her mom, Gerda. He would never physically hurt her, but he would hurt Gerda. One night in June of 1991, he got angry and fired shots at both of them. During that altercation, Gerda ran and grabbed her own handgun that she had kept hidden and shot him back. Her shots killed him while Charlize watched it all unravel. In the end, it was declared self-defense and Gerda never faced any charges. But think how traumatizing that must have been for her to see her mother shoot and kill her dad as a teenager. And in our number one spot today, we have Ashton Kutcher. Now, I never knew this and I was incredibly shocked when I found out about it. But on February 21st of 2001, Ashton Kutcher went over to his then girlfriend's house, Ashley Elrin. The two had planned on going to a post-Grammy party, but when he knocked on the door, there was no answer. That's because Ashley was dead on the floor of her home. She had been stabbed 47 times by a man named the Hollywood Ripper. He was responsible for the death of up to 10 women. As a result, Ashton Kutcher lost his girlfriend very suddenly and in a very traumatic way. He was also scared that he was going to be a suspect in the murder investigation since his fingerprints were on her door, but he never was. But he did have to testify in court.
Number 10, affair with August. So by now, we all know Jada's affair with August as Lena, but it was a secret that she never wanted exposed, and something that she tried to deny up until the very last minute. This is how it all went down. While promoting his third album, August sat down with the Breakfast Club and claimed that the Smiths, whom he considers to be like his family, had an open marriage, and Will allegedly gave the singer permission to date Jada. Quote, "I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. He gave me his blessing. He also admitted that they deeply love each other, but that he felt like not talking about their relationship was affecting him professionally and personally, because it was a secret that was weighing him down. This was explosive when it first came out, and it's clear that Jada would have prevented this if she could." Almost immediately, her publicist came out with statements denying any romantic involvement, stating that the claims were absolutely not true. But it was already too late to backtrack, and the couple finally decided to air out their dirty laundry and went on the Red Table Talk about a week later. Number 9, feud with Gabrielle Union. Unbeknownst to the world, Jada Pinkett Smith and Gabrielle Union were secretly not speaking to each other for almost 2 decades. The actresses, who both gained prominence in the late 90s, had a long-standing tension between them that led to a 17-year-long feud. Although neither of them can pinpoint the exact moment that caused the rift, both admit to feeling awkward around each other during this period. The two finally put an end to the silence in an episode of the Red Table Talk, where they both talked about how they've grown in terms of female relationships. Jada said, quote, "She and I did not talk for 17 years, and we could not remember why. There was just a tension between us every time we would see each other." She went on to say that there was some moment where they had left a bad taste in each other's mouths. Years later, when they finally got on the phone to figure out what exactly went wrong, they couldn't figure it out. Jada went on to suggest that it was probably just the two of them being young divas, but even they don't really know for sure. Number 8, Scientology school. This next one is super crazy. Leah Remini claimed that the Smiths founded a school based on Scientology. So to give some background, the couple opened the New Village Leadership Academy, a mysterious private school in Calabasas, California, that opened its doors in 2008 before quietly closing in 2013. While Jada furiously denied the allegations in a 2009 interview with Ebony magazine, quote, "All I can say is that it is not a Scientology school. Now, if you don't trust me and you are questioning my integrity, that's a whole different matter." But the Daily Beast actually spoke to 4 former teachers at the school who all admitted that Scientology is not only bled into the curriculum, but that it was essentially a Scientology school. Also, most of the teachers were followers of the controversial religion themselves, and there were pictures of L. Ron Hubbard hanging on the walls, who was a science fiction writer and founder of Scientology in the 70s. Not only that, but on the Academy's website, which has since been removed, it actually mentioned the study technology as, quote, "an educational model developed by L. Ron Hubbard." Number 7, investigated by CPS. This incident was not widely known at all because it happened in 2015 when Willow was barely a teenager. Jada admitted on the Red Table Talk in 2019 that she was furious after Child Protective Services showed up to the family home to investigate whether or not her daughter Willow was being starved. It all started when a 14-year-old Willow was photographed while lying in bed next to her shirtless family friend, who was 20 at the time. While she insisted that the photo was innocent, it was definitely extremely controversial, and CPS also thought so too. So they decided to intervene after the agency received a complaint accusing the Smiths of starving their teenager. When recalling the incident, Jada admitted that it was the first time she got really furious. Quote, "I was looking at the lady and the whole time I was thinking, you could be helping so many kids right now, and you're wasting your time with a child who has everything they need." According to the actress, both Willow and Jaden exhibited passive behavior throughout the visit and said that it was like their own personal protest to being investigated by the agency. Number 6. Substance misuse. When Jada was young, she had some very real issues dealing with the addiction that came with substance misuse. She also acknowledged that she drank excessively and used all kinds of narcotics. Quote, "For me, drinking red wine was like drinking a glass of water. I drank a lot in high school, and then I went on to mix everything up." She then recalls a time that she mixed a variety of illicit substances that are a dangerous combination when used together. While on her talk show, she recounted before her mother and daughter that she was high functioning during the week and consumed almost no alcohol for several days, but spent her weekends at parties. Quote, "From Thursday to Monday morning, it was non-stop. Things went on like this for a while, until one episode that changed everything forever. It was in 1996, during the filming of The Nutty Professor, that a young Jada went to work still high off one of her partying binges, and she was in very bad condition. She went on to say that she passed out on set and told everyone it must have been from expired medication, and that was the wake-up call she needed. So when looking back on that time, she sees the whole thing as a miracle." Number 5. Marriage to Will. In December of 1997, the couple got married. A year later, Jaden, their first child, was born. In 2000, they became the parents of a girl they named Willow. Although her marriage had already surpassed 2 decades, which is a really long time when you look at other Hollywood couples, there were many secrets about their real feelings towards each other that were kept hidden from the public eye. Jada eventually confessed that at first she did not want to marry Will. She was 3 months pregnant at the time and felt that she was pressured to say "I do." Quote, "I was so angry because they forced me to get married. So angry that I walked all the damn aisle to the altar crying." So on their wedding day, Jada got cold feet and actually didn't want to go through with it. There was also a time when their marriage hit rock bottom, and it happened when Will realized that his wife had cried for 45 days straight over their troubled marriage. Quote, "She would wake up and start crying. She did it for 45 consecutive days. I know this because I wrote it down in a diary." He also said that it was a time he felt worst in their marriage. This was very difficult for the actor because he had been trying to paint the picture of a perfect family, but it was only putting stress on the couple. Number 4. Leah Remini's accusations. In her memoir, Troublemaker, Leah recalls a time that she and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities, including the Smiths. This is where the story gets a little crazy. He announced to all the guests that he wanted to play hide and seek. Leah somehow got out of it and claimed that her stilettos were too high to run. While it sounds a little weird, in her book, Leah called the Smiths as more famous friends of the church, and even told the Daily Beast in 2017, quote, "I know Jada's in. She's been in Scientology a long time. I never saw Will there, but I saw Jada at the Celebrity Center." She even goes on to mention the Scientology school that they opened, and reveals that despite what Jada has been saying, that she is indeed good friends with Tom Cruise, and an active member of the controversial religion. Then on Watch What Happens Live in July 2017, Jada told Andy Cohen that the hide and seek story just wasn't true, and later posted on Twitter, quote, "I have studied Dianetics and appreciate the merits of study tech, but I am not a Scientologist." Number 3. Addiction to adult videos. The actress confessed a little known fact about her personal life. One of them was that she used to be addicted to sex. Quote, "My types of addictions jump from one side to the other. When I was younger, I thought I had some kind of sex addiction and that everything could be fixed with that." She claimed that she was addicted to adult movies at a time in her life when she had decided to practice abstinence. But her addiction got out of control and she was forced to stop consuming X-rated movies. She went on to say that she got hooked on hardcore movies that were very disturbing. Quote, "It's the behavior that's attached to it, because if you want to have a lot of sex, that's great, but why are you having all that sex? That's what you've got to look at." Jada also shared that once she took it too far when it came to pleasuring herself, and she admitted that while she was taking a break from men, she became way too addicted to doing it herself. And at her lowest, she was doing it 5 times a day, before she suddenly decided one day that it was enough because it had taken control of her life. Number 2. Issues with Chris Rock. Viewers of this year's Oscars were left completely in shock when Will infamously walked up on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock across the face for making jokes about Jada. But what most people don't know is that the beef between the Smiths and Rock actually goes back several years, so the tension has always always been there. Chris once took aim at Jada while he was hosting the 2016 Oscars because the couple had very publicly decided to boycott the event. At the time, their protest was due to the fact that no actors of color were nominated for the second year in a row. Chris said, quote, "Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited." He actually said this during his opening monologue, and it really seemed to sting the actress. The comedian also took a dig at Will at the very same time. He spoke about the actor's performance in the movie Concussion, saying that it's not fair that Will was this good and didn't get nominated, then added, "It's also not fair that Will was paid $20 million for Wild Wild West." It was such a burn that the couple was clearly not able to shake off. The open relationship. While on the Red Table Talk, some more very questionable things came out that exposed the nature of Will and Jada's relationship. Basically, Will implied that the couple's decision to open up their marriage was Jada's idea because she told him that she never believed in conventional marriage and that they needed to figure out how to make themselves happy individually. So it was almost like she told him that happiness can be found with other people. But Jada's affair with August started to make a bit more sense when she openly spoke about her disappointing sex life with Will. While talking with Gwyneth Paltrow, Jada outright said that keeping the spark alive in their marriage is hard, implying that although they've been married for almost 25 years, he still doesn't know exactly what she wants in the bedroom. Quote, "Because I think you expect your partner to know what you need, especially when it comes to sex. It's like, well, if you love me, you should know. You should read my mind. That's a huge pitfall." It must have been a little embarrassing for Will when Jada insinuated that he wasn't meeting her needs, but now it's obvious she was the one pushing for the open relationship. Number 10. Germaphobe. While speaking to Jonathan Ross in a 2015 interview, Priscilla Presley revealed that her late ex-husband was terrified of germs and would take his phobia to the extreme. She claimed that he even refused to use anyone else's silverware, which even included the ones at high-end restaurants. She said that because of his secret germophobia, he never liked to go to other people's homes to eat because he would have to take his own silverware, and that would often cause quite an uncomfortable situation, as you could imagine. Quote, "And he didn't like drinking out of cups that other people had drunk out of, even restaurants or other people's homes. So when he drank, he would drink where the handle was, knowing that no one would ever drink at that side." Although this information is not widely known, Priscilla says Elvis has been that way ever since he was a child. She believed that he just didn't like to put his mouth where other people had put their mouth, especially with cutlery and dishes, which is definitely something most people wouldn't have known about the star. Number 9. Liked younger women. In her book Elvis and Me, Priscilla Presley wrote that she just turned 14 when she met Elvis Presley, who was 24 years old at the time and already an international superstar. Despite the scandal, they started an intimate courtship that lasted 7 years before they eventually married in 1967. Now, the age difference is creepy on its own, but it becomes even creepier when you compare that to what Linda Thompson wrote in her own memoir. Thompson, who dated Elvis after his marriage to Priscilla ended, was also very young and inexperienced at the time. In fact, he allegedly told her, quote, "I want to preserve you for as long as you need." Whatever he meant by that, it just sounds super icky. Elvis reportedly took advantage of his power to manipulate young, impressionable fans whenever he went on tour. Joel Williamson, who wrote a historical book about Elvis, claimed that 2 years before he met his future wife, the star took a group of 3 girls with him on tour for the purpose of, quote, "pillow fights, tickling, and cuddling." Number 8. His vanity. Fame is a terrible drug that often pushes stars into the oddest methods of trying to stay thin and beautiful. Linda Thompson wrote in her memoir that Elvis's obsession with being slim would drive him to bizarre measures to keep the weight off, including an alleged 2-week period of sedation. That's exactly what it sounds like. Elvis mainly slept all day except for brief periods where he woke up long enough to go to the bathroom and eat a small portion of food before being sedated again and going back to sleep. She also claimed that he regularly did crash diets on just 500 calories a day. She also exposed his secret about why he constantly wore shirts with high collars. Apparently, he did it to conceal his neck, which he actually hated. She wrote that the whole reason he wore the trademark style was to keep his, quote, "skinny little chicken neck hidden from the public." Then at age 40, Elvis allegedly opted for a facelift. Quote, "There has been speculation through the years that Elvis has his eyes done or some other mystery procedure, but that mini facelift was the extent of his plastic surgery. Well, it seems like his ex-wife was really intent on revealing a side of him that was incredibly vain. Number 7. Pet chimpanzee. This one is really messed up. Billy Smith, who was a member of Elvis's entourage, openly talked about how Scatter, Elvis's pet chimpanzee, was essentially used as a party favor that they trained to harass women. It said that the chimp would often look for women at parties and grab onto their clothes. According to Smith, Scatter also drank heavily. Quote, "He could down a fifth of liquor before you knew it." Smith remembered another time when Scatter was beaten by a woman at a party for misbehaving. There have been conflicting reports about what really happened to the chimp. Some state that he merely lost his life due to old age, but Smith speculated that Scatter was poisoned by one of the maids who was tasked with feeding him after he was abandoned by Elvis and the crew who were out on the road. Although it's unclear exactly how he passed, it appears as though Scatter took his last breath on his own after years of living the party lifestyle. The whole thing was really rather sad, as it seemed like Elvis and his friends used the chimp just to entertain themselves and discarded him when they went on tour. Number 6. Attacked his fiancée. After Linda Thompson, Elvis briefly dated Mindy Miller before becoming involved with Ginger Alden, who was a full 20 years younger than him. It was only 2 months into their relationship when Elvis proposed to her and she accepted. The couple planned to walk down the aisle just a few months before Elvis's untimely death, and Alden even said how excited he was about their wedding and their future together as a couple. She revealed to Express that during his final days, quote, "Elvis was looking forward to many things: marriage, more children, serious films, and his next tour. But Elvis was reportedly very manipulative when it came to women and could be extremely jealous and controlling. According to sources close to the star at the time, he could get very violent. His treatment of her was horrifying, and the pair constantly argued during their time together. After one particular fight, he allegedly asked someone in his entourage to pop the tires on Alden's car so she couldn't leave his home. And on another occasion, when she was driving away after an argument, Elvis reportedly aimed his weapon at her car and fired. Number 5. Allegations of racism. Last year, Quincy Jones revealed to The Hollywood Reporter that he always refused to work with Elvis because he was a racist. The musician, best known for producing Michael Jackson's albums Thriller, Off the Wall, and Bad, made the comments about Elvis's supposed history of racism in his new interview. The outlet asked Jones about Presley after the producer compared Jackson to the king of rock and roll. The 88-year-old musician and producer described a time when he was writing for the orchestra leader Tommy Dorsey in the 50s, and Elvis came in saying, quote, "I don't want to play with him." Jones went on to call Elvis a racist and added, quote, "But every time I saw Elvis, he was being coached by Otis Blackwell, telling him how to sing." And while there wasn't an overwhelming amount of accusations surrounding Elvis's past racism, there are certainly many allegations against the icon for appropriating black culture and repackaging it to the general public as his own. Despite this, it's obvious that American society still allowed him to have a very successful career, whether it was something the lead singer did consciously or subconsciously. Number 4. Hidden children. Even though he has been gone for many years, Elvis Presley has always been the center of several new scandals and controversies. One of the many that have hit the headlines in the last few years is that the king of rock and roll supposedly kept hidden children from the rest of the world. The National Enquirer actually conducted a 2-year investigation into the hidden children of the Presley family, reportedly acquiring witness testimonies, checking receipts, mail correspondence, birth certificates, and even DNA tests. The result of the investigation allegedly proves that Elvis did have several additional children that were being kept away from the spotlight of Hollywood. In fact, multiple alleged mothers of Elvis's hidden children have come forward to tell their stories about how they met the star, and the stories have some strange similarities. One example is Desiree Romaine Presley, who is the daughter of Lucy DeBarban, and she claims that her mother was in a 24-year-long relationship with Elvis and was being kept away from the media. But the crazy thing is that Desiree's father is listed as Randolph Presley on her birth certificate, someone who allegedly worked at the Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. Number 3. Addicted to medication. It's not unheard of for celebrities to turn to substances as a way to cope with fame and just how crazy their lives become in the spotlight. But Elvis's alleged addictions could have had a very different origin when you look at the tragedy of his mother's passing. In 1958, he was drafted into the US Army, but went to Germany but had to return to the US less than 6 months later because of his mother's untimely death. Many people believe that this this marked the beginning of the end for Elvis, who quickly headed down a path of self-destruction. As soon as he returned to Germany, it's reported that Elvis partied heavily and would often get into fights. During this time, he also started taking illegal substances to try and deal with the grief of losing his mother. This probably snowballed, and it's assumed that from that moment on, the misuse of substances played a major role in his life. Linda Thompson wrote several examples in her memoir about these incidents and says that she often found Elvis passed out in a bowl of chicken noodle soup under the influence of sedatives. She even says that doctors tried to hospitalize him for 2 weeks after misusing a combination of medication for far too long. Number 2. Why Priscilla ended things. Because she was only 14 years old when their courtship began, it's really no surprise that she missed out on a huge chunk of her adolescence. She told Jonathan Ross in 2015, quote, "I was kind of lost, really in who I was earlier in my life. I really didn't have teenage years." After their first child, Lisa Marie, was born, Priscilla accused Elvis of not wanting to sleep with her after she had given birth. Elvis told her that he wanted her to recover, but Priscilla later wrote in her memoir that he had mentioned before they were married that he had never been able to make love with a woman who'd had a child. In fact, throughout their marriage, Elvis continued to cheat on Priscilla with other women, and she herself had her own affair with an owner of a dance studio. It's safe to say that their marriage never really recovered. They finalized their divorce in 1973, and she said that this was because her life was his life, which meant her problems were always going to be secondary. Years later, she admitted that she did not divorce him because she didn't love him, but because she had to find out about the world. She was clearly just way too young when they started seeing each other. Number 1. Erratic violence. In recent years, Linda Thompson has been pretty open about her time with Elvis Presley, stating, quote, "We all knew how dangerous Elvis's rage could be. Apparently, when she first noticed Elvis could get pretty angry was when someone reportedly stole personal photos of one of his ex-girlfriends with another woman. She claimed that he then decided to show off his samurai sword collection while under the influence of illegal substances and left her fearing for her life. Although she said that he was true to his word and he didn't in fact hurt her, she was concerned because his talents were entirely impaired due to the narcotics. These were just some of the several times that his ex said that she worried about his boiling rage. Apparently, the musician even invested in a concealed carry permit to take the weapons on stage with him, including several that were actually stuffed into his shoes, just in case someone got a little bit too rowdy in the crowd. Even singer Tom Jones spoke about Elvis's love of weapons during a visit to his dressing room. Tom said that he noticed a loaded weapon just sat on the side and simply handed it to Elvis by wrapping it in a towel. Sounds a little crazy to me.
And number 10, we have Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx's name started to trend when the actor revealed his name wasn't actually Jamie Foxx. The actor, born with the name Eric Marlon Bishop, decided to change his name so that he would be called up first during open mics. In stand-up comedy, women usually get called up first during open mics, so Jamie decided to change his name to a more gender-neutral name so he would be called up earlier. Jamie told David Letterman that he noticed it would be like 1,000 guys that would show up and only 3 girls, but these 3 girls would always get a spot, and then they would choose from a random list for the rest to perform. So the star changed his name so he could get a spot. Now, Jamie Foxx's real birth name has been out for quite a while now. However, a lot of people still don't know, and if you didn't, now you do. You're welcome. And number 9, we have John Legend. Now, this one came as a surprise to me because I had no idea John Legend used a fake name until now. Born with the real name John Roger Stevens, in 2018, John would tell MTV John Legend was a nickname some of his friends started calling him, and it would then quickly develop into his stage name. The star has pointed out that Legend is something he wouldn't have picked for himself originally. However, the nickname grew to the point more people in his circle would know him by, and that's why he chose to make the decision to change his name. The star did know it was a bet, however, to live up to his name because he knew people would pay attention either way. However, he never knew it would actually make him a legend. Well, John, with the countless singles hitting the top 10 and being an inspiration to many, you definitely did live up to your name, and that's something to be extremely proud about. Number 8, we have Meghan Markle. Now, it's been a long time since Meghan went by anything other than the Duchess of Sussex. However, before Meghan Markle was in fact Meghan Markle, she was actually known as Rachel Meghan Markle.
It's not clear to why the retired actress changed her name. However, in an interview back in 2017, she was asked if she had a middle name, and when she said yes, she stated her middle name was Megan and that her first name was actually Rachel. Now, it's not uncommon for people to go by their middle names because sometimes it makes them a little more memorable. To me, I can definitely say Meghan Markle definitely has a better sound to it than Rachel Markle. Meghan has also been going by her name since she was in elementary school, so it could have been something she adopted by her parents. At number 7, we have Brad Pitt. Now, despite going by his middle name, the actor has introduced himself as William when he's flirting with unknown women. Born with the full name William Bradley Pitt, it's said that Pitt was named after his father, William Elvin Pitt. Brad ultimately decided to change his name to his middle name when he started to embark on his acting career. While some fans may have not known about his name change, it's still a worthy mention because you never know when he might approach you and use his real name. Back in 2018, Page Six reported Pitt was overheard introducing himself to a random group of women in a coffee shop as William. He proceeded to flirt with them. And if this so-called rumor is true and he does use William when flirting with women, you definitely don't want to mistake him for a look-alike and miss out on your opportunity with Hollywood's most eligible bachelors. At number 6, we have Rihanna. Musically, the singer has always gone by her middle name. Born with the full name Robyn Rihanna Fenty, the artist told Rolling Stone that her family and close friends do still call her Robyn, especially when they want her attention. And she gets kinda numb when she hears Rihanna and will typically ignore you if you do so. Ultimately, if you want to get the star's attention, you have to say Robyn. But unless you're part of her circle, you probably shouldn't call the star by her real name. And honestly, it was definitely unique enough to make her one of the most remembered names in Hollywood, so you go girl. At number 5, we have Miley Cyrus. Now, if you're a big fan of Miley Cyrus, then you know that the star changed her name early in her life, but didn't make it official until much later. Born with the real name Destiny Hope Cyrus on November 23rd of 1992, her parents, Billy Ray Cyrus and Trish Cyrus, gave her her name because they knew she was destined for amazing things. And they were right. Since Cyrus was always smiling as an infant, her parents gave her the nickname of Smiley, and then the nickname would be shortened to Miley. She would then use the name when she launched her career on Disney Channel's Hannah Montana, and kept the name for her own singing career. In 2008, the star would then change her name from Destiny Hope Cyrus to Miley Ray Cyrus officially. At number 4, we have Emma Stone. It's easy to forget celebrities' names aren't actually always their real names. In addition to privacy, usually if an actor in your country is already using your name, you have to find a new one. In an interview with E!, Emma Stone talked about how she had to find her own new name after realizing her birth name, Emily Stone, was already taken by another actress. The star tried a bunch of names before finding the right one, and in the beginning, the actress actually chose to go by Riley Stone when she got a guest star role on Malcolm in the Middle. However, she kept forgetting to respond to her new name, which is fair enough because if I had to go by a different name, I would probably forget to respond to it as well. So ultimately, because the star's close friends and family were using the nickname of M, she decided to change her name to Emma Stone. At number 3, we have Lana Del Rey. Before she was a household name, Lana Del Rey was known as Lizzie Grant. However, her full name was Elizabeth Woolridge Grant. Before settling on her name, the star went by a different number of stage names such as Sparkle Jump Rope Queen and May Jailer. She finally was able to settle on the name Lana Del Rey during a trip to Miami with her sister. She realized she wanted a name that had sort of an exotic feel to it and that reminded her of the seaside of the Florida coast. So when she turned 25, she developed her alter ego, Lana Del Rey. At number 2, we have Drake. Born with the full name of Aubrey Drake Graham. When Drake starred in the Canadian high school drama TV series Degrassi: The Next Generation, he still went by Aubrey Graham. However, in 2006, he started to pursue his rap career, and the rapper dropped Aubrey and started to go by Drake. Like many musicians, the star chose a nickname to go by because it allowed him to have more control over his image and style. It also had a more catchy, memorable feel to it than his original name, even though his original name was beautiful. However, you have to admit, Aubrey Drake Graham is a bit of a mouthful, and Drake sounds like a strong masculine man. Shortening his name was definitely a good business for the star. Plus, it's actually pretty common in the rapping industry to use your nickname other than your real name. And number 1, we have Shay Mitchell. So if you're a Pretty Little Liars fan, you may not know that Shay Mitchell's name isn't Shay, and that Shay is actually a short form for Shannon. In a Facebook Live interview with Glamour, Shay explained when she was in high school she loved Jennifer Lopez, and people would call her Shay-Lo. Shay would eventually drop the Lo because, let's face it, no one could ever be J-Lo or even compete to be J-Lo. However, it turns out that her nickname helped her in her professional life because when she went into a room, it was because of her unique name. The casting directors would always ask her about it, and it would get her another minute in the room. Shay also noted that her name change did provide her a valuable buffer between her personal and professional life. When the star started to go by Shay, she felt like it made her feel better and that there was a bit of a separation, and no one knew who Shannon Mitchell was. No matter what your name is or who you choose to go by, you have the chance to choose your own destiny.
In at number 10, Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake's past actions were exposed after the recent documentary framing Britney Spears was released. The documentary centered around Britney's terrible treatment by the media and how the people in her life contributed to this. One of the people that made the media treatment worse was her boyfriend at the time, Justin Timberlake. His worst offenses were speaking about their love life when that was something Britney wanted to keep hidden, along with insinuating Britney cheated on him in his Cry Me a River music video. But Timberlake was not only exposed for treating Britney badly, but his handling of the infamous Janet Jackson Super Bowl scandal was also questioned, because Jackson's career was essentially ruined after that, and Timberlake got away scot-free. In a response to all the backlash, he posted a lengthy apology to Instagram. However, many felt the apology was too little too late, and was only made because he was being called out, not because he actually meant it. And at number 9, Demi Lovato. Demi Lovato made headlines when they came for an LA frozen yogurt shop called The Big Chill. While Demi was visiting, they noticed that there were a lot of treat options that they deemed diet foods, like sugar-free cookies. Demi then decided to call out the shop on Instagram, where they told the shop how bad of an experience that they had and told the shop to do better. The Big Chill responded on their page saying, quote, "We carry items for diabetics, celiac disease, vegan, and of course have many indulgent items as well." Demi then got backlash for not considering other dietary needs and making everything about themselves, because diabetics require sugar-free options. Demi ended up apologizing for attacking the business, but many felt that Demi needs to do a better job to not attack a small business in the middle of a pandemic where they are most likely already struggling. And at number 8, DaBaby. DaBaby was cancelled a few months ago after he went on a homophobic rant during his Rolling Loud set. The rapper went on to make disparaging comments regarding AIDS, spewing hateful and damaging rhetoric about the LGBT community. After his comments, the backlash was swift, and he was promptly cut from a number of other music festivals that he was lined up to perform at. His collaborator on the hit song Levitating, Dua Lipa, even made a statement condemning the comments. DaBaby has apologized a number of times, but his apology has not been accepted. And at number 7, Sia. Sia is best known as an iconic singer, but she decided to take a dive into directing, and it got her cancelled. She decided to create and direct a movie called Music about a girl with autism. The movie was star-studded, including Kate Hudson in the cast, who actually won a Golden Globe for her performance. After the film was released, it faced extensive backlash. Many found the film to be damaging to the autistic community, along with perpetuating stereotypes about the condition. Sia also got backlash for deciding to cast Maddie Ziegler, her longtime dancer, in the role instead of an actual autistic person. And at number 6, Matt Damon. Matt Damon was cancelled earlier this year after he tried to seem woke by admitting that he used the F slur. Basically, during an interview, he shared a story about how his daughter urged him to stop using the F slur as it is homophobic. Damon claims he only used it as a joke and never in a hurtful manner, but his daughter's words resonated with him, so he decided to stop saying it. But that instantly backfired, with people calling out the star for ever saying it in the first place. So then Damon tried to clear the air and clarified that he never actually said the F word in the first place, he only heard it back when he was a kid. But the damage was already done and no one believed the excuse.
Halfway at number 5, Alex Rodriguez. In 2020, A-Rod and J-Lo were the talk of the town, and everyone was obsessed with their love story and engagement. But the engagement did not last because we found out that A-Rod was cheating on J-Lo during their relationship. It all started when Southern Charm star Madison LeCroy was accused of having an affair with an ex-MLB player, with many alleging that A-Rod was that player. Cast member Danny Baird also revealed on the Reality Life with Kate Casey podcast that Madison and A-Rod had been FaceTiming or something while he was engaged to J-Lo. Madison defended A-Rod and said that they never met up, but the damage was already done, and after multiple cheating allegations, J-Lo decided to leave A-Rod and is now happily back with Ben Affleck. In at number 4, Jamie Lynn Spears. In the midst of the Free Britney movement, fans turned to Jamie Lynn for answers on why she didn't help her sister who was struggling. Things were made worse when Britney called out Jamie Lynn on her Instagram, making it clear that Jamie Lynn did not support her in her battle against her father. Britney wrote in one caption, quote, "I don't like that my sister showed up to an awards show and performed my songs to remixes. My so-called support system hurt me deeply. This conservatorship killed my dreams." Jamie Lynn responded to the hate on Instagram, saying that she supported her sister behind the scenes way before the Free Britney movement was created, but that did not stop the hate train. And at number 3, Jen Shah. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shah was arrested by the feds on March 30th of 2021 for allegedly ripping off elderly people in a telemarketing scam. Footage from the reality show showed Jen getting a call right before the ladies were set to go on a trip, then fleeing before the police are able to arrest her. Apparently she would encourage the elderly to invest in dubious online projects along with selling them bogus business services. Jen is facing charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering, for which she could end up with 30 years in prison if found guilty. Let me know below if any of you are watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake City or Beverly Hills. I actually watch both of them. I'm a big Beverly Hills fan. I think I've said that multiple times. I just started watching Salt Lake City. It is really good. It's really juicy, even aside from this Jen Shah telemarketing stuff. Anyway, please let me know below. And at number 2, Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X was the target of religious groups and conservatives after he released the song and music video for Montero, Call Me By Your Name. The song has themes of sin and darkness, but the video takes it up a notch. In the video, he kisses a man in the Garden of Eden and then rides a stripper pole down to hell. But then he took it a step further and he revealed he'd collaborated with streetwear company Mischief to release 666 pairs of limited edition Satan shoes. The stunt was incredibly successful and the shoes sold out in minutes, but it got him even more backlash along with getting sued by Nike. But as usual, Lil Nas X did not dwell over the situation. Instead, he made the best of it and got even more promotion for the song. And finally, at number 1, Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison is the legendary host of the Bachelor franchise, but he was caught up in a major scandal after contestant Rachel Kirkconnell was exposed for racially insensitive actions. In the midst of this scandal, Harrison was getting interviewed by former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay, who was the first Bachelorette of color, and Harrison was really aggressive and rude when talking about the issues. Harrison's take on the photos ended up making the whole scandal a lot worse. One of Harrison's controversial statements included, quote, "I've heard a lot of, I think she should, I think he should. Who the hell are you? Who are you to demand that?" People found his comments to be insensitive and many said he was too quick to defend a contestant accused of racist actions. Chris ended up apologizing, but the backlash against him got so bad that he was cut from the franchise and they found new hosts to replace him.